Need psychotherapy online or in person? Check out tinyurl.com/THT psychotherapy. The George Brassey Podcast is made possible with funding provided from Brassey Global Strategies, LLC, a leading political consulting, public policy, government affairs, and research firm. Are you interested in running for elected office? Need advice? Call or email George 708-769-5015. Brassey Global Strategies 1@gmail.com.
Before we get to the interview, I just want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Union Signs and Printing. Union Signs and Printing is a union sign shop located near Chicago, Illinois, that specializes in the production of corrugated plastic lawn signs used in applications ranging from political and election usages to unions, schools, and businesses. They also produce a vast array of other products, including American-made, union-printed t-shirts, banners, bio cards, literature, door hangers, business cards, and trifold. Get a hold of Union Signs and Printing at 815-740-1688 or find them on the internet at unionsignsandprinting.com. And don't forget to tell them you heard about their services on the George Brassey Podcast. I'm so glad to welcome Bloom Township to the podcast. Trustee, thanks for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure, George. Good to be here.
Likewise. Mike, tell the audience a little bit about where did your interest in politics begin?
Well, George, I grew up in Glenwood, and I went to St. Kieran's School in Chicago Heights with my brothers and my cousins and all that. And then what happened was I ended up going out to college in Washington, D.C. at American University. And although I went out there thinking about getting into international relations, I ended up getting a internship in Congress for then Congressman Marty Russo. A funny story, George. I met Congressman Russo and his chief of staff while caddying for them at Idlewild Country Club. And they're like, "Oh, you go to school in Washington, you should intern for us." And that's how it started.
So it was Congressman Russo in the 2nd Congressional District? Was that his district?
I don't remember the number. He had it was in the 1980s, and he lived in South Holland. The districts are a lot different then, and I remember under the 91 remap, he got remapped in with Congressman Lipinski, and that's how he ended up leaving Congress. But he was from South Holland at the time, so it would have been I think he represented most all of the South suburbs.
That's such a crucial role. I didn't know that about your background, being a congressional staffer. What was that like? Because I'm guessing you're 18, 19 years old when you're doing that.
Yeah, it was fun. I worked in the congressman's office for a semester. I worked at the DCCC for a semester. It was a good way to get your eyes open to the possibilities. I would say though that the most eye-opening part of my experience with the elected officials and the high levels of government when I was in college was my experience caddying at Burning Tree Golf Club just outside of Washington, D.C., which is known as the golf course of the presidents. So that's where I got to meet lots and lots of elected officials and top lobbyists and top government executives, all in a more informal way where they were willing to pass on their years of wisdom to me.
Absolutely. And then after your time in DC, how do you end up back in Illinois?
Well, I went and I spent 2 years down in the Mississippi Delta as executive director of the Clarksdale, Mississippi Habitat for Humanity. And then I moved back to Washington to start my professional career and ended up getting a job as a on the 1994 congressional race for Clem Balanoff in the Democratic primary. So that was what was known as the 11th congressional district back in the 90s. And it stretched from the southeast side of Chicago all the way out to Joliet and down to like Coal City. And so I worked on Clem's race. He ended up coming in second in a 9-way race and lost to another state rep named Frank Giglio, who went on to lose to Jerry Weller in the general election. But after the primary was over, Clem helped me get on a job on with the House staff for the office of the office of the Speaker down in the Illinois House of Representatives.
And that at that point was Speaker Madigan?
Correct. Yes.
What's it like working for him directly?
You know, it was a for me in the 90s, it was a tremendous educational experience. I really felt like I learned a lot about how to run campaigns successfully, what to focus on in the politics, but and then in the legislature, really learn the legislative process and see how the relationship part of politics is so critical as well. But it was from 1994 through 2001, I worked on the staff, and that was really a very good experience. Learn a lot, build a lifetime of relationships down there as well.
And those relationships are really the only way to get anything done in most government.
Well, I wouldn't say the only thing, George, but I do think that makes things easier. However, I also have concern now, especially as we move into a much more of a one-party state. In Illinois, certainly, in the last 30 years, we've become much, much, much more one-party. And I fear that when that happens, factionalism breaks out and personalities and cliques run things in a way that doesn't seem to exist as much when you have a loyal opposition. Is when a group of brothers and cousins go out, at least Irish ones, when it's just the brothers and cousins, oftentimes by the end of the night, they're beating the hell out of each other. But when they go somewhere where they're one side and there's a bunch of their different folks, at the end of the night, they're not fighting each other, they're fighting the other folks, right? And that seems to be what's going on, at least where the relationships are good in terms of, is this person honest? Are they not going to lie to you? Are they trying to do what they say they do? It's nice to know that you can trust people when they say that. But if it's, I don't like that guy because he worked on the other side of the primary, and so we're going to make sure that the policy that's important to his constituents or the policy that's important to his clients goes down the tubes just because we don't like them. I fear that that's becoming more and more prominent and not positive for the system.
Do you think the one-party dominance of the Democrats, does that give the Republican Party any room to grow, in your opinion, in the state of Illinois?
I think they could, but the Republicans have such a macro challenge, and the way that the media defines things now, and the way that they have made everything a cultural issue, seems to me that the more likely path in the future is a new emerging party that takes the folks who are not happy with with the MAGA racially charged politics of Trump, nor are they happy with the extreme wokeness of a lot of the politicians on the left. You know, it used to be for a long time that the Whigs were a dominant party in America, right? Now they're gone. And I don't think there's any guarantee that the Republicans stay a dominant party. I'm very interested to see how things evolve with the millennial and Gen Z generations. Obviously, the educated cohorts of those generations are are not identifying as Republicans. We'll see if they lose those white working class portions of those two groups. I don't see how the Republicans stay a party anymore, George.
Absolutely. Mike, I met you as part of the Keep Bloom Strong party and to help you get reelected as Township Trustee. Talk a little bit about what that role is and some of the work you've done in that position.
Sure thing. And we appreciated your help and the help of everybody out here in Bloom Township. You know, Illinois has more units of government than I believe any other state in the country. Maybe we're number 2, but I think we're number 1. And then they give some electoral power to positions that have nothing to do with the operations of government. And that's particularly true in Cook County, where the ward and township committeemen have the ability to appoint, to fill vacancies in the Illinois Senate and Illinois House of Representatives, as well as other local spots, and to use the power of party caucus to eliminate primaries in the township elections. And so, you know, I had started working, like I said, I worked for Clem in the primary out here in 94. And then in 96, I was fortunate enough to manage Mike Giglio's primary campaign. And Mike ended up beating Bill Balthus, who was a Republican from Lansing, to take 1 seat in the General Assembly in 96. The other seat was I ran George Scully's campaign in the general election, and George beat Flo Carlo to take the other Republican seat. So back in 94, both, you know, most of the South suburbs that we think of, Rich, Bloom, Thornton Township, all Bremen Township, all represented by Republicans. So we were able to work to flip those seats in 96 and worked to elect Democrats ever since. So Lori Wilcox becomes the committeeman, and this time around, she had a slate of new candidates, so none of the incumbents were allowed to run, and that's why we ran as the Bloom Township Strong. And I think we won because the township just focuses on some specific tasks that we don't think any other government would really pick up the slack for. And that means we work to help out seniors, especially help seniors stay in their homes. And we do that through a variety of programs. The most important one, I think, is the senior ride program. So a senior can arrange to be picked up and driven to the doctor or the grocery store or their girlfriend or friend's house to play cards or whatever it is that they need to do. We do a myriad of other senior services, including luncheons and picnics and trips and grass mowing and snow plowing and other all designed to help seniors be able to continue their independent lives in their house. Then we also work to help the disabled in our community through programs. Also, the ride program is vital, as well as a ramp program. So if someone becomes disabled in Bloom Township and isn't able to get in and out of their home because of stairs, we have a ramp program to provide ramps to these residents. We do a lot of youth programming, providing jobs for youth in the summer and mentorship and other opportunities to try to keep the kids on the straight and narrow. In fact, Supervisor Summer has now begun the institution to start a new program to look at the violence that's coming to Bloom Township in a way that really needs a community solution approach. And so we're doing that around the youth program. And then finally, we're there to help people who are having a real hard time making it through our general assistance program and our food pantry. When I got on the board in 2011, it was really just a emergency food pantry. If somebody showed up at the township really down on their luck and looking for some assistance, there was a closet with, a couple of cases of tuna and other shelf-stable foods so that the person wouldn't leave hungry. But through the assistance of then Senator Toy Hutchinson and Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle, we were able to get the money to create the Bloom Township Food Pantry that serves. Well, during the pandemic, we were up to serving. I think the most we did was 6,600 people in the month of April, and so that the township really keeps their work focused on those specific issues, and I think that's why the voters decided to look past the party label and reelect the Bloom Township Strong team this time around.
Does this make you hopeful for the future of Bloom Township?
It does for me, George, because we live in a diverse community. Our board, the Bloom Township Strong team, and the ticket, as you know, we ran with candidates for school boards and others. And when we would be in our meetings, it was a very diverse group of individuals. Our township board, there's 4 trustees, and it's 2 men and 2 women, 2 African Americans, 1 Latino, myself, and I see that representation throughout the winning boards. People who want to see our communities safe and stable and diverse. And that's what I think why a lot of people choose to live here. And the other side, I was tried to make this a very racially charged election. And the fact that the voters rejected that makes me very hopeful.
Mike, what are 2 books that have been influential to you as a person, and why?
Well, when I lived down in Mississippi, I didn't, I was in small town Mississippi with a TV with an antenna in like the lounge. I didn't even, because I was living in a larger dorm area. So I read a lot of books. I would say the one book that really made a difference to me was a series of books called the Rabbit Books by John Updike. It follows one character, Harry Angstrom, through is 4 books written 10 years apart from each other. So you meet Harry in the 50s when he's just has ended his all-state high school basketball career, and then you meet him in his late 20s or his early 30s, and then early 40s, and then early 50s. And Harry's story is really the story of America from the 50s to the 80s. And I just loved it. I also loved how John Updike could write such raw sensuality in these really fine literature. And those books, Harry has had his ups and his downs, right? In this journey, and it's something that I really enjoyed. I would say my favorite book to merge my love of politics with just my liking to think about Human Nature is All the King's Men by Robert Penn Warren, which is a fictional account loosely based on the life of Huey Long, who's one of the most memorable figures in all of American politics, in my opinion. I put him up there right along with, Marion Barry and some of the notorious greats of our country.
Trustee Mike Noonan, if somebody wanted to learn more about you, your work at the township, how would they get a hold of you?
They could just email me at mike@southlandfarms.com.
Bloom Township Trustee Mike Noonan, thanks again for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure, George.
All right, talk to you again soon.
Yep, bye.
Help George stay on the Chicago Heights City Council. Go and donate today at tinyurl.com/AldermanGeorge2023. Need more George? Like his pages on Facebook. Friends of George Brassey PAC, Fifth Ward Business Alliance, Chicago Heights Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center, and the George Brassey Podcast.
Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall. Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall, Chicago Heights, Illinois. Snow was on everybody's mind at Wednesday night's Chicago Heights City Council meeting. The Chicago area was hit by a major snowstorm, and Chicago Heights had about 10 inches of snow dumped on it Tuesday and Wednesday. City Hall was closed Wednesday afternoon because of the winter storm, and garbage pickup on Wednesday and Thursday was also postponed. And students at Chicago Heights School District 163 went to remote learning Wednesday because of the storm. The mayor's chief of staff, Karen Zaranti, thanked city workers for their efforts. She told the council that city workers had been working round the clock to keep city streets open and safe, and would continue to do so throughout the duration of the storm. Fifth Ward Alderman George Brassey also lauded city workers, saying, "The snowstorm we have experienced in recent days has been terrible, but the City of Chicago Heights Public Works Department has done an excellent job in maintaining the roads during the snowstorm. Each and every resident's request that was submitted to my office was addressed in a quick and efficient fashion." Christopher Bykoskas, 4th Ward Alderman, added that Public Works is working diligently, doing a great job cleaning up the streets. In other business, Zaranti said that the city would be hosting its second Illinois Department of Public Health clinic offering vaccinations and booster shots 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, February 12 at City Hall. The council also approved an ordinance renewing the city's employee health insurance policy and premium. The city expects to see premiums remain roughly the same. The city's benefits and insurance consultant told the council that he was able to negotiate lower rates with its insurer, Blue Cross/Blue Shield PPO, despite higher prescription drug usage by the 231 employees covered under the policy. Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall.